A battle is brewing between cable companies and internet streaming set-top box companies such as Boxee as the FCC weighs new policies. The cable companies are lobbying for the FCC to make changes to current legislation that would allow them to encrypt their basic cable programming. Boxee and other TV tuner businesses, on the other hand, argue that if these restrictions were removed, competition and consumer options would be greatly reduced. And Avner Ronen, the CEO of Boxee, is joining us now by way of Skype to talk more about this issue and what could potentially happen. Thank you so much for joining us, Avner.
Sure, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, can you first of all just explain in further detail what cable companies want the FCC to do and why your company is so opposed to it?
Sure. So the cable companies are lobbying the FCC to make a rulemaking, a change to existing regulation that requires them to put the basic cable programming in the clear. So if you have a cable connection, you can connect it directly to your TV set or to a device such as Boxee box and receive the basic broadcast channels. And they want to shut that down.
Wow, and in a blog post that you wrote on the issue, you said that the cable company's reasoning doesn't hold any water.
Right. I mean, we looked hard to see what consumer benefit can come out of that ruling, and we couldn't find any. The motivation for the cable companies, I think, is very clear. If you cannot connect your cable directly to the TV set or to a device such as Boxee, you have to get a new box from the cable operator, which you'll have to pay for a monthly rental fee. And we think that's their main motivation. And we think a secondary motivation is to block alternatives such as Boxee box or Simple TV or other devices that may come out and take advantage of this feature.
And essentially you believe that this is a result of the cable companies losing subscribers.
Right. If you look at their past quarterly reports, going back a year, they're either flat or declining in terms of numbers of subscribers, and this is a great way for them to just increase the revenue that they get per user on one hand and try and slow down that trend.
Why do you think that this fight is gaining so much interest now, just a few weeks after Boxee launched its live TV component?
So they didn't start it when live TV was launched. They actually started that proposed rulemaking before that. We heard about it from a user. I think it's being expedited because of devices such as Boxee, and I believe that they saw some of the press around it, and that the users are really excited about it, and they don't like the idea of competition. Those are organizations that have been a monopoly for many years. They didn't like the idea of competition from satellite providers. They didn't like IPTV competition, and now they don't like competition from the internet. And whatever they can do to block it or delay it, they'll do.
Well, in a response filed last week with the FCC, Neil Goldberg, the General Counsel for the National Cable and Telecommunications Association, said that Boxee customers would be able to access encrypted channels if it included a cable card slot in its device. What is your response to this?
Cable card is probably a bad idea for consumers at this point. If we were to do that, implement cable card, it would mean that the device itself would cost 2 to 3 times more. But more than that, the user will have to call the cable company, order a cable card, and then pay a rental fee for the cable card. And the other thing is that the cable companies themselves are on record saying that cable card is not the future. They're moving towards IP. So it's going to mean a much more expensive device for the user, and it would mean additional rental fee to the cable company. And it's not something that they're going to support in the future. So it doesn't make any sense.
What other arguments did the NCTA make in this filing that Boxee believes are false?
Well, they initially started by saying this is good for the environment, which is obviously not the case. They claim that that would save truck rolls. The issue is that if you have to get a new set-top box from the cable company, that set-top box needs to come to your house somehow. So either the cable company is going to send the truck with a cable box, or you'll have to go and pick it from somewhere. So the environmental argument, I don't think, holds any water. Then they try to tie the issue of encrypting the clear QAM to consumers having to wait for the cable guy at home. This is also not true. Today, cable companies offer self-installation kits. All the major cable companies are doing that. And also, if you want to disconnect, you don't have to get somebody into your house to do that. So those are two unrelated issues, whether you need the cable guy to come to your home or not. They're just trying to link them, but there's no need to correlate between the two.
So if the cable companies were to get their way in this instance, what would it mean for both consumers and competition?
So for consumers, it would mean that if you had one set-top box from your cable company at your living room, and then you have another TV in the bedroom or in the kitchen that you just plug to the cable in the wall, those TVs will stop working, and you'll need to get the device from the cable company, and your cable bill is likely to go up. Depends on what box you get, but it could be $7 or $10 or $15 extra per month. And for devices such as Boxee, it would mean that the only way that you can get those broadcast channels would be over an antenna, which is great for some people, but in certain cases, consumers don't have a great reception, and they have to rely on something like cable. So it would mean that the addressable market for a Boxee-like product would decrease, and competition in the marketplace will decrease.
So in your opinion, what would be a better alternative for the cable companies to keep their subscribers?
Well, I think first, if they're concerned about clear QAM and they want to encrypt it, we think that's fine in the future, but once they close down that door, we think they should open up another door that doesn't require the user to get new hardware or to pay additional fees. Something like supporting the broadcast channels just over pure IP. That would address their issues and would enable much more competition than there is today. So we think that's the right path forward in terms of the way the FCC should look at it.
Well, what is the all-vid standard that Boxee and several other consumer electronic companies support?
So we're actually not part of the All-Vid Alliance. All-Vid is a suggested IP-based standard for delivering cable channels over IP, which we think is a great idea and the right way to move forward. The cable industry has been trying to delay the adoption of All-Vid and stall it in the FCC. We think, though, that if they want to move away from QAM, they should consider an option such as All-Vid or something else that is standard-based and that enables any device manufacturer to provide those channels to their subscribers without the additional hardware. And probably that's the solution that makes most sense. I don't see any other solution that's not going to have harm for both consumers and competition.
Well, there have been over 80 documents filed with the FCC on both sides of the issue, which indicates what an important issue that it is. But how will this decision alone not only impact the basic cable channels, but also the future of Boxee and other similar companies?
Well, we think that the transition towards more video over the top that's coming over the internet, such as Netflix and and Hulu and iTunes and YouTube, is inevitable. And probably what you're seeing right now from the industry is they're just trying to slow down the adoption of over the top as a real alternative to the traditional premium tier packages that they offer. So if they'll be successful in getting the FCC to adopt this rulemaking, it's probably going to slow down the transition, but it's not going to prevent it. It's inevitable.
All right. Well, as the FCC examines both sides, what is Boxee asking consumers to do?
So we've asked on our blog for users that are going to be impacted by this rulemaking to reach out to the FCC and make their voice heard. The FCC, I think, gives a lot of attention to those type of direct consumer responses. We refer them to a website called Public Knowledge that has a form that they can fill very easily and just say how they're using TV today and why they think this is something that's going to hurt them. And I believe the FCC will listen.
All right. Avner, thank you so much for talking with us about this.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And keep watching WebProNews for the very latest developments in this news. I'm Abby Johnson with this report.